and new undisputed.
Make sure y'all stay on point with
The Puncher's Point.
What is good, y'all? Welcome back to The Puncher's Point and new, and it is official. We are going to get a part 3. We are going to get the trilogy. Dmitry Bivol defeats Artur Beterbiev, getting his sweet revenge in the rematch to become the new Undisputed Light Heavyweight Champion. Now, overall, I'm gonna say this right now. This was an incredible fight, and these two, every time they step into the ring, they never disappoint. And I will say this right now: these two could fight 10 out of 10 times, and it will always go the distance. Because I do believe that they are just two rivals, just built for each other. Now, Dmitry Bivol defeated Artur Beterbiev by majority decision. So now we got Beterbiev defeating Bivol by majority decision. Bivol defeating Beterbiev by majority decision. So now it's only right that we get a part 3, that we get a trilogy to this. But before we talk about all of that, let's get right into the fight grades and the fight breakdown. Let's start off with strategy. In my opinion, both of these guys had a great strategy coming in. You see, what I noticed from Bivol was he put his foot on the gas a lot more than when he did the first fight. You see, the first fight, he had the early rounds, and then after the early rounds, after like round 4, he really let his foot off the gas. And Beterbiev's power and pressure was definitely getting to him. This fight, even though he had his moments of letting his foot off the gas, he put it right back on. And if you look at Bivol, his whole intentions, no matter what was going to happen in this fight. And I mean, this guy, something was wrong with his legs. I believe his right hand was hurt. But this guy, no matter what was wrong with him, there was nothing that was going to stop him from attacking Beterbiev full on, and he said it. You're not gonna knock out somebody like Beterbiev. He's like a wall. But what you can do is you can constantly put the pressure on him. You can constantly attack him, and that's what Bivol was doing. You see, what I noticed, one of the keys that Bivol was doing in this fight that I really loved was he was punching him in between attacks. Whenever Beterbiev would go to attack, he would punch him in between. And a lot of these guys who fight Beterbiev, they don't do that because they're too afraid of the consequences of getting caught. Bivol wasn't afraid of the consequences. Bivol said, here's how it's going to go. We are going to fight. Every single time you try to charge and attack me, I'm throwing combos back at you. And you're going to back up. And that's exactly what happened. Now, if you're asking me how I had this fight graded, so I had a 116, 112 Bivol. I felt like that, to me, was the best scorecard. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. So I had rounds 1 to 3 go to Bivol. Round 4 and 5, those went to Beterbiev. And then from 6 all the way to 9, I had Bivol winning all of those rounds. Round 10, I had Beterbiev. Round 11, I had Bivol. And then round 12, I had Beterbiev winning that. So I had a 116, 112, 8 rounds to 4 Bivol. I felt like Bivol really did control this fight, and he did a lot better than the last fight. Now, the other thing about Bivol that I really enjoyed, and it was one of my keys, was when you're going to fight Beterbiev, use your footwork, which I believe he did a lot better of a job than last time. You see, he even kind of lured Beterbiev into the ropes sometimes. There were times where Bivol was in the corner, and Beterbiev looked to try to land one of those power punches, and Beterbiev slipped, ducked, moved out the way, and he ended up getting Beterbiev on the ropes a lot of times. I love the 3-punch combinations that he was doing. He was throwing 3-punch combinations and slipping out. And he was just, honestly, Bivol was the aggressor in this fight. He was the aggressor. Now, if you're asking who had the more impactful punches, again, that goes to Beterbiev. Like I said, I said in all the episodes when we talked about Beterbiev versus Bivol, 3 of Bivol's punches equals 1 of Beterbiev's. But regardless of all of that, Bivol was not letting up. Bivol made it known that every time you try to attack me, every single time you try to throw a punch, you try to throw an attack, I'm going to be there, and I am going to give you a combo back. I'm not going to let you sit here and punch me and throw me around this ring. It's not going to happen. That's what I respected about Bivol. Bivol took Beterbiev's best shots on the chin. He was like, what else you got? And basically, he was like, now since I took everything that you could possibly give me, I'm going to come forward, and I'm going to make sure that you're going to have to be fighting for your life. And I love the game plan. He showed no fear in there. And you could just tell by the look in his eyes that he had a whole different mentality coming into this fight than he did the last fight. What I wish I would have liked to see a little bit more from Bivol. I didn't even get to see the left check hook a lot. I wish I would have saw that a little bit more. But obviously the jab was working, the straight hand was working. So overall, he didn't use his front hand a lot to control the range, but overall I felt like he did a good job of controlling the range. Now, what did I like from Beterbiev? Well, for Beterbiev, what I really liked from him was he was using his jab like I said he should have in the prediction episode. He's using his jab to get into the inside. That's what I really liked. After those 3 rounds, Beterbiev realizes that he had to do something, so he used those jabs to get into the inside to start landing some attacks on Bivol and to back him up, and it was working. For the fourth and fifth round, Beterbiev was throwing Bivol around. It didn't last long, but it was working. You know, he was using that jab, and that jab was very, very effective. And then he would go to the body as well, and I feel like that was definitely something that both guys should have did. You know, Beterbiev, I mean, he has a wide stance, so it was easy to land those types of body shots on somebody like Beterbiev, but to attack Bivol, go into his body, kind of gassing him out. I felt like that was a good idea and a good strategy as well. He stayed in front of him the whole fight. Beterbiev, he kept on coming forward, charging. He stayed in front of him. And I'm not gonna lie, there were times where he would throw some type of punch and Bivol would come back with 2 or 3 of his own, but he was staying in front of him. He wasn't letting Bivol just circle around him and everything like that. Beterbiev did the best he could at staying in front of him. Bivol was just a lot quicker in this fight than he was the first. And I also said make him engage with you on the inside, and he did that a lot, but Bivol did a lot better of a job engaging on the inside than I thought he was going to do. I thought if Bivol had any chance of winning this fight, it was going to be on the outside, but Bivol really did engage in that inside, and he really did a great job of that. So overall, if you ask me what the strategy was for both of these guys, I'm going to be honest with you. The strategy, I gotta give it a 9. I mean, overall, they both had a good strategy. The only problem that Beterbiev had, and it was the problem that cost him, was A, you started too late, and B, the problem that Beterbiev had was it looked like he was getting sick and tired of getting countered, and he kept trying to charge forward, which he should have did. But at the same time, the problem that he had, what he wasn't doing, was every single time Bivol threw a 2-3 punch combination, he would just freeze and then he would go and reset. I felt like Beterbiev should have been a lot more aggressive, and there were some rounds where he let his foot off the gas, and he wasn't the same Beterbiev that a lot of people know. And I said it takes 2 special fighters, and I said Bivol is a special fighter because any other guy with the attacks that Beterbiev was throwing, any other guy would have fell. Anybody, I truly believe that anybody else would have fell, but not Bivol. Bivol and Beterbiev are 2 special types of fighters in this generation, honestly. And I'm just honestly blessed that I got to watch those 2 fight in the ring because they both put up one terrific performance, in my opinion. But overall, strategy wise, I like that Bivol was using his combinations and his footwork a lot more. I like that he was a lot fearless in this fight than the last one. And as far as Beterbiev, I really liked how he was using his jab to get to the inside, pushing Bivol up against those ropes in some moments. The only problem was I felt like Bivol could have did a little bit more, to make it more decisive, and Beterbiev could have definitely, not let his foot off the gas a lot. And he could have definitely used his aggression and be the aggressor, and he could have did a lot better of a job just basically putting Bivol up against those ropes and kind of putting Bivol on the fence and making him defend himself more. But overall, they both had a really good strategy, so I'm gonna give it a 9. Now, as far as the excitement, 10. In my opinion, it's a 10. In my opinion, it was more exciting this fight than the last fight because the last fight was more of like a chess match. This fight had a lot more action, it had a lot more excitement. You could tell that both of these guys were gonna go through war. And I mean, go back and look at the first fight. Bivol's face was all messed up. Beterbiev's looked relatively well. Now go look at this fight. Both of their faces did not look great. Because both of them realized that if we're gonna win, if I'm gonna, it was a matter of who was gonna be the aggressor. But both of these guys realized that if I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna win, I need to make sure that we gotta make it an ugly fight. It's whoever wants it more, it's whoever's the aggressor, whoever's gonna be more aggressive. And in this fight, it was Bivol. In this fight, Bivol pushed the pace more. It was more of Bivol's fight than it was Beterbiev. So I got to give him a lot of credit and the excitement because you make it your fight, because it forces Beterbiev to be a lot more aggressive, because it forces you to be more offensive. I had to give it a 10. Now, as far as the stakes that were involved, I mean, you have the Undisputed Light Heavyweight Championship. So that was one. Number two, the last fight had a lot of controversy. Some people believe Beterbiev won that first fight. Some people believe Bivol got robbed. So when you really look at it in that aspect, this fight, both of these guys had a lot to prove. It was a matter of because Beterbiev said it wasn't his best performance the first time around, and he was looking for that knockout. Obviously, he didn't get it. For Bivol, Bivol felt like he won that last fight, and he had to go back in there and he had to prove that he could beat Beterbiev, and that's exactly what he did. So the stakes here, it was all about who truly is the better light heavyweight, and we still don't have an answer for it. I mean, we're talking about two guys who are the kings of the light heavyweight division. It's tied 1-1. They got to have a third fight. And it's pretty ironic because this card was called the last crescendo, but this isn't the last crescendo. If Beterbiev won again, then we could call this the last crescendo, and then we move on to maybe Benavidez. But this is not the last crescendo by no means. So when you really look at it, the stakes that are involved, now we get a third fight, now we get a trilogy. You really think about what was on the line. Both of these guys' legacies were on the line. Because if Bivol lost again, then we're just saying Beterbiev has his number, kind of like Tyson Fury. He was the great. He beat everybody he needed to except for Usyk. It's the same thing in this situation. Bivol was great. He beat everybody he needed to, even Canelo, except for Beterbiev. But that's not the story now. The story is who really is the king of the light heavyweights. So there was a lot riding on the line here. Both these guys had something to prove. Undisputed light heavyweight championship. So if you're asking me what the stakes were, I gotta give it a 10, honestly. And then last but not least, the impact. Well, how does this impact the sport of boxing? Well, we're getting a trilogy for these three. So we're gonna get another great fight of the year nomination. Um, the other reason why it impacts it is because both these guys are pound for pound. And I think as of right now they're 4-5. I think they're around like between four. They're between number 4 and 6 on the pound for pound list. I feel like you can't. If I feel like they just switched their spots, so Bivol takes the higher spot, Beterbiev takes the lower, but you can't do nothing else. You have to keep them at 4-6 or 4-5. You have to keep them in those spots because it's not proven yet. I'm sorry, but they got to have a third fight, and who knows what happens in that third fight. So the impact is we get a trilogy with them. We finally get an answer on who really is the best light heavyweight. And on top of that, the other impact of it is now somebody like Benavidez, he has to wait. So, because you already know they were going to try to set up better Benavidez for the winner, but the problem is they got to have this trilogy first. So now Benavidez got to wait, and honestly, I think it's best that he does wait. I feel like the more that Benavidez waits, the more data, the more, secrets or keys that he can take into beating both of these guys. So I feel like it's the best option for him. But overall, the impact is now we have a new undisputed light heavyweight champion. So now you got to ask yourself, well, what a well, is it going to be the same result the next time around? So the impact is we get to see these guys fight for a third time, and I think that's definitely a big impact. But overall, you just don't know what's gonna happen after this. I mean, the final chapter, chapter 3, is coming up. So as far as impact, honestly, I'm gonna give it an 8.5. Um, kind of on the fence about whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. It's a very good thing, I feel like, in one way because we get to see this great fight again. But in the other way, it's a bad thing because now this division won't be able to move forward. If Beterbiev won this fight, I would have expected him to go and fight Usyk. Bivol won. Now let's suppose Bivol wins the third fight. Maybe he goes and he fights Benavidez. Maybe he jumps up to cruiserweight and fights like Zerto or something like that. Or maybe Jayo Pataya. But I mean, we gotta wait for this third fight to happen. We gotta wait for that to conclude. So I gotta give it an 8.5. I gotta keep it there. And so with that being said, the overall score for this fight is 9.38. And I am proud to say that that is the number one graded fight of season 4. So when you really look at it, it's the number one fight for season 4. And overall, I think that's where it deserves to be. I mean, the stakes couldn't have been any higher. You're talking about two rivals here. Great fight. These two are always gonna put up a great fight, and they're always gonna do what they gotta do to win. I mean, both of them are going to give 110%. And that's why I'm honestly grateful for both of them. Now, obviously, y'all know I am a better BF fan. So it kind of hurt a little bit to see Bivol get that win, but he deserved it. I wouldn't have wanted better BF to get that win, knowing that he didn't actually earn it. 116, 112 is what I scored it. I gave it to Bivol. Congratulations to Bivol. I mean, not many people can get their revenge. I mean, ask Tyson Fury. He wanted to get his lick back against Usyk. They gave Usyk 2 wins, so now all of a sudden he's kind of have to figure out what's next in his career. Not many people get that revenge, and I'm happy for Bivol. I'm happy that he got to kind of critique that wrong. And when I was watching this fight, I started realizing that it reminded me of like Rocky 4 when Rocky took so many hits from Drago to the point where it just numbed him. That to me is what happened with Bivol. He took so many big shots from Beterbiev that eventually throughout that fight, whatever Beterbiev threw at him, it didn't phase him. Now, with that being said, he did take some shots. He did take some heavy shots. Same thing with Beterbiev. I hope that both these guys are healthy. They can go back to their families. I hope that they both recover very, very fast. And I hope we get this fight as soon as possible. Hope we get this trilogy because we need to figure out who really is the best light heavyweight. We're going to find out in the third fight. The third fight is going to have the highest stakes of them all. So it's going to be very, very exciting. So with that being said, what's next for both these guys? We already know they're going to have a trilogy, but overall, I do want to talk about what this trilogy means for the sport of boxing and what these two mean for the sport of boxing. When you have two guys that are in the top 10 pound for pound and they're so close to each other, you see both of them, if you look at it, the careers, they mirror each other. So for Beterbiev and Bivol, both have great amateur backgrounds. Both have fought Hall of Fame fighters. Both of them have had dominance over that light heavyweight division. And there was always the arguments about who would win between the two. The first fight happens, Beterbiev wins. And I'm not going to lie to you, when I originally saw Beterbiev, before even making a prediction, I would say, oh, Beterbiev's going to knock him out in the sixth. It's not even going to be close. But then as you got to watch Bivol a lot more, you started realizing it's not going to be that easy. And so Beterbiev goes, he wins the first fight. The second fight happens. Bivol takes control. He wins the second fight. I think we have to take time and appreciate that these two are meant to be rivals, and it makes great fights. And, that's all we ask for as boxing fans is for the best to fight the best. And on top of that, not only did they fight once, they gave us a rematch. They weren't afraid to step back into the ring against each other and fight the best. So I believe that's the way boxing should be ran. You go and you fight the best. If it's close fight, if it's relatively close, you give that person a rematch. It's not one and done. I'm sick and tired of seeing all that in boxing. It seems like you fight one time and you never fight again. Some guys do that. I feel like if it's really close, you need to go get that rematch. If a guy earns his way to a rematch, you need to give him that rematch. And I just got a lot of respect for Beterbiev and Bivol for the way that they have carried themselves, for the way that they've fought, tooth and nail. They fought blood, sweat, and tears, and they've given 110%. So shout out to both of those guys. I can't wait to see the trilogy. And with that being said, we're just gonna have to wait and see when that's gonna take place. Where it's gonna take place, most likely Saudi Arabia. But overall, I mean, make sure y'all continue to stay tuned into the YouTube channel and to the podcast. We got 2 more episodes coming on the way because we did cover 3 of them that were on this card. Overall, it was a great card. I had no complaints about it. I thought it was an amazing card. Shout out to the replacements, Josh Padley and Martin Bacoli for stepping in on one day's notice to go and fight some legit challengers, some legit competition. So shout out to them. And overall, just make sure you continue to tune into the Puncher's Point and make sure y'all continue to tune into all the episodes. Like, follow, share, subscribe, all those types of things. Make sure y'all continue to stay on point with the Puncher's Point.